Okay, so I've just been talking for the last last minute or so for absolutely no reason because I forgot to hit the button. Thank you very much for reminding me to unmute myself. Wow. So I'm Graham. Good morning. You can find me on all my social media as PUC Gamer or as Panzerline. This is streaming on Facebook, Twitch, and Facebook all at once. Let's see what else I got to say. Um, thank you for my thank you to my Patreon and coffee supporters. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please like and subscribe wherever you happen to be watching. And today we are kicking off with this mine. So where we left off last week was we built this mine, and it's a nice, simple, non-industrial scale mine. Perfect for the little village area that we have. Great place to add a little adventure. And as I said, I'm doing all this stuff with Incarnate. I'm using a pro license, so that means I have a few extra stamps and some HD options. But everything that I'm doing is stuff that people could do at home for game. And so now that I'm no longer muted and people can actually hear me, let's crack on. Oh, got a question. I missed the last stream or two. What do we mine for the mine? You know what? That's a good question. What do we mine for the mine? Um, I'm probably gonna go with some sort of like rare element or crystal or something like that because it's visually interesting to look at. And honestly, like a big iron mine or something like that would probably be too much. So it's going to be something that adds value to whatever the village is doing, but not so much that it's like the heart of the village's economy or anything like that. All right, create new map. Watercolor battle maps. Okay, got some nice example here of sort of thing that we're going to be going. I'm not going to be building a cult, but it's good to see that this is an option. So we're going to choose that style. And we're going to go for, we'll stick with the landscape, 40 by 30. All right, so right off the hop today, because we're now working underground, things need to look a little bit different. So before anything, we're going to paint our background a new color. Oh, dungeon background dark. Nice. What do we got here? Dungeon background. Dark floral tiles. Nice, nice. Okay, I think I'm going to go for the dungeon background. Make that huge. Softness 0. We want maximum coverage. So there we go. That's colored in now. And now we're going to add land to this. Oh, that is... I'll deal with that color afterwards. Okay, I see how this works. So this is a learning experience for everybody involved today because, I've never made a dungeon map on here before. So this should be pretty fun. So we're going to come back here and we're going to open the catalog and we're going to select dungeon background dark, and that's going to be our new background. Good morning. So that'll be our new background. I should get all that. Then our foreground. Go back to this one. There we go. And now what we can do is we can come back to our shovel tool. And let's determine, so So we have our hill here. So let's skip back a moment here and let's take a look at the larger map just to remember what the shape of that hill is. So we're going to use the subtract tool here to actually build up our mined area. So here's the mine here. So probably comes in a ways, then expands out. And it would have to, yeah, basically come out this way, and then it would be able to expand down like that. Hang on a second here. I mucked up. So what we're going to do is we're going to activate our grid. There we go. Here. This. I'm doing all right, thank you. Okay. I'm going to keep this. Let's see here. Let's maybe increase the grid size a little bit. Okay. Yeah, I like that. I like that grid size better. And come back here. I got lots of people coming in today. Nice. All right. So, I've got all that done. Now, see, this is what I was talking about, where I've never done this before, so it's making this interesting for me. So how to do this? Because I want to. Okay, I know what I need to do. I need to subtract everything. There we go. Now I need to add. Now this may look kind of odd to start with, but the reason I'm doing this is because I want to have a good idea of how big a space is before I get into actually coloring everything in. So this is going to be the final form. And as I've been saying through this entire set of streams, nothing is permanent until basically until it is. I know it sounds kind of hackneyed and silly, but so what I'm doing now is I'm adding terrain to this. And then what I can do is after I've got the basic shape all hammered out here, I'll come back in with our squiggly shape here and give it sort of that unnatural wall shape, more natural wall shape. Pardon me. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah, anything can change. I think definitely been there with GIS stuff. Okay, a few of these things bigger. Okay, so that's going to be the general shape of our mine here. Come across with this. Hide most with dynamic. Yeah. Oh, dynamic. I love the dynamic lighting function, but it always messes me up. All right. Come across. Now, if you want to leave it more gamified, that's fine, and you can do that by just leaving the edges squared off. And for some people, for visualization purposes and stuff like that, it's much easier to do that than it is to come in and sort of do these do edges like that. But I like the rougher edge look because it's this isn't a fully operational heavy duty mine that we're talking about here. Like this is somewhere where local miners come to do some work, get some of whatever material is in here, then get out. And this is all being done with the add terrain function, which is this shovel here. All right. Now, for a more natural cave complex, what you might want to do is have this set to a higher level of coarseness and really get some like super bumpy looking walls and edges. I think that would do that pretty well. So, you know, and like we saw with the battle mats for the exterior parts of Grafis Hill here, this is where you really get into the nuts and bolts of how you want everything to look. And I'd also recommend, because obviously the locals are going to know what the mine looks like. So once you have the basic map all complete, do one of the save and clone functions there. Where is it? Here we go. Yeah, save as a clone, so that the players can have a basic map, like the sort of map that they'd be able to get from the locals, and then have the actual map that you're using and the map that they might be using on a VTT or something like that, where you have all the other stuff on it, like the monsters, treasure, weirdness, discrepancies, all that sort of stuff. Because do I have that book here? Yeah. This was one of my favorite books I've ever seen. It's called there we go, How to Lie with Maps, um, and it's an absolutely brilliant book about how maps can be informative and misleading at the same time, and it's a fantastic tool for gaming because one of the things that we're sort of very used to in this modern age is that maps are almost always hyper accurate, or at least we trust that they are. When in reality, maps can be quite deceptive, depending on how they're presenting information to you. As my geography professor put it, every map is lying. The question is, what is it lying about, and how much is it lying about it? And for role playing games, it is that makes maps into a fantastic tool for driving story, conflict, and a bunch of other stuff. Um, and you don't have to be a monster about it. Like, don't make your maps completely useless, so that the players get frustrated trying to use them, because that's not fun. But to have discrepancies, or like for example, if they're going into a forested area, and the only map that they have is a map of where you can find all the best mushrooms in the forest, stuff like that. So like a map like that would be probably super accurate for telling you where you could find mushrooms, but it may be inaccurate for things like forest hazards, monsters, and all that sort of stuff. Still useful, but possibly not in the way that the players would want or prefer it to be. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna hit the save button here. All right. Clean that up a little bit. Okay, there we go. Sorry, my phone was just buzzing. Hope that didn't come through. There we go. Yeah, I like that. There's a good use of space. So there would be the hill face there. Goes in a ways. Comes in a bit, drops down. And sort of falls along that way. Okay. Yeah, I dig it. Okay, yeah, this is looking good. There's your comment here. In a habit of trusting me as DM too much to tell the truth. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we've got that added in now. So let's add in. Really want to see some different flooring in here. So let's see what the catalog has for us. Bones. Dungeon cracks. No. Textures. Gravel. Dirt. Water. Wizard textures. I think I'm like used to this dirt one. Whoa, that's way too big. Let's see how this looks. I do not like that. Fallen leaves, no. Cave shadow. You try gravel. Okay, yeah, gravel doesn't look too bad. There's a lot of space between its components, though. Just fit the screen. Okay, that's a good start. Now, what else we got? Fallen leaves, absolutely not. Stone shadow. That's ugh. That looks awful. Oh, here we go. Why is that under wizard textures? Rough stone floor, rough stone floor. Okay, come in here and make that area special. So I'm going to put something cool in there and make that sort of like a secret, some sort of secret door or something like that. I'll figure out a marker for that afterwards. Let's see what else we got. Gravel and foam. Just, if I want to coat the floor in bones, there's tons of options, but there's not really much so maybe there's something over here. Gray ground. There we go, rocks. That doesn't look too bad. I like that. Alright. Got some rocks going on. Okay, so we've got rocks, got that stuff. Now let's lay a few layouts. So where are the tracks? Here we are. So what scale do we need to drop this down to? Yeah, 50. So those, we need a couple of those. Maybe one of those. Those, some broken ones for ends. So obviously the characters aren't coming into the mine when things are going perfectly. Something has happened, so having a little selection of ones like that is handy to have. Alright. Up here. Well, that fit together pretty nicely. It's one of those things that would be nice in this game if it had a function for drawing. Like instead of just drawing a trail, you could draw like with tracks or something like that, and just go, yeah, these tracks go this way, and instead of having to come in and modify each one as you go along. Yeah, an advanced pathing system using stamps would be amazing. Like that would. It's one of those things where, like I love Incarnate. It's an amazing tool set for um, all sorts of things. But it's just missing the handful of things that it's missing, or that haven't been developed yet. Really hamper it, I think. How am I going to get that to work? There we go. So I'm trying to get trying to keep these more or less lined up with the grid, just to keep things easy for me. It's the most thrilling part of any sort of mapping project is when you realize that you're locked into having some sort of pathway that you need to take to completion, or at least to a reasonable point. Here, leave one of these. And then let's throw a couple of broken lengths in and a stop. So that'll be the end of this one down here. So I have to say, it's really interesting watching the fallout from the OGL thing continue right now, and how it's evolving. It's really interesting. So there was their poor sacrificial lamb there, Kyle Brink. They sent out, did an interview to talk about the whole situation. So I'm going to be watching that probably this afternoon after I finished doing the follow up stuff to this, and see how Wizards is trying to spin the situation now. And what I'm really and I already saw from one account there to pay attention to, or from D&D Shorts. If you're not following D&D Shorts, by the way, you should probably follow them. They got a lot of good. Well, that's not going to fit. They have a lot of good information going on about the whole situation, interviews and such, and they were a good source of information coming out of Wizards, owing to sources that they had during the entire thing. So, good for keeping track of what's going on. Oh, this is just a miserable bit of track here. I cannot see anyone enjoying this area. Anyways, and what they were recommending was to pay attention to which questions that were answered and which ones weren't, and what was said and what wasn't said. So, sounds like it's going to be a pretty interesting watch. But one of the other things that I'm noticing right now that's been really interesting is the disconnect between the fifth edition fandom, and the greater sort of like tabletop role playing game fandom, in concerns of what exactly everybody's goals were. I've seen a few people commenting that they don't understand why indie designers and small press groups are still pressing on with, try other games, try these games, try our game. Why the Orc is still happening with Paizo and stuff like that. And the main thing that a lot of them are saying is, like, wasn't the goal to get the OGL back? And yes, that was the goal in part, but I think that's where a bit of a split happens between what the goals of people who were still very much committed to the 5th edition ecosystem and game and everything else like that, versus the goals of people adjacent to it and people outside of it but still within the larger role-playing game hobby. And yeah, there's a not minor amount of argument and discussion happening around it. And it's interesting to watch, because a lot of the people who were involved in it, from the indie side of the house and stuff like that, from the smaller publishers, small to medium sized publishers, were pretty, at least to me, seemed pretty clear about what their goals were the entire time. Whereas some of the observations from the 5e side are much narrower. Like it was almost like there was a rush to return to the status quo. Um, so it's yeah, I'm interested to see how that's all going to evolve within discussion and within the hobby because yeah, the goals weren't as aligned as some people were under the impression that they were. I like that. That worked nicely. All right. And on my end, I've got a ton of writing to do this week. I've got my own stuff that I'm got a bunch of writing to do for, um, and then I've got a bunch of Blue Planet stuff to do a bunch of writing for. So it's gonna be a busy week, busy week. And on top of that, well, man, yeah, we got like a home inspection happening. So our house was built in 1997, and literally nothing is up to code. Um, I'm pretty confident in saying that this house was barely to code when it was built, based off the frankly alarming shortcuts that were taken in so many parts of this building. Um, like stuff that is making the technicians who've come out to fix things or look at stuff shake their heads in wonder and horror. My favorite of which being the bizarre, like there was a piece of plumbing that literally didn't need to exist, but that was created so that if you ended up running two sinks at once, I think it was some sort of overflow idea, but instead of dealing with the overflow, it would cause water to sort of like gently sprinkle out over like the gas lines and stuff, so everything's all rusted. It's terrible, but yeah. So we're trying to get the house upgraded, but it involves like a home inspection and a bunch of other stuff. So we'll see how all that goes. Oh, I love when they line up perfectly like that right away. And what you can do too is if you run into stuff like that, come in and just give the wall a little bump there, just so it doesn't look like the ties are going directly into the wall. There we go. Bring that up to 90. It's adorable right now. My daughter has she's always loved maps ever since she was small. Like we have those old map books in the car, and those have for years been one of her favorite things to read during any sort of car trip that we're on. And they're like maps to Vancouver and stuff like that, but she'll use them as maps for wherever we happen to be. And now she has started drawing her own maps. And they're these wonderful, incredibly um, oh, like deconstructed elemental map designs that just they're amazing. And she'll arbitrarily assign parts of the world to the map. She'll be like, "This is North America." I'm like, "Okay." It's like, "And this is Mexico." I'm like, "Sweetie, I think Mexico's part of North America." She's like, "I know, Dad, but it's here and we're here." I'm like, "I don't think we're that close to Mexico, buddy." It's like then Peru is down here, and my daughter has an obsession with Peru right now, which is actually it's not even right now. Like it's been ongoing for a while now. I don't know if she saw something, um, or if or what happened, but she just absolutely adores Peru and everything about it. So Peru features heavily on all of her maps, and yeah, it's it is fantastic seeing her creativity coming out. So what I'm doing on this map with these railroads is I'm just using the broken ones to denote, close to either the ends or I'm gonna hit that save button because it's supposed to be a more or less functional map, or sorry, more or less functional mine. If you're but the damaged areas are sort of like where stuff has been happening. So I'm going to use a bunch of damaged sections down through here, uh, which would be also a good place to demo some of this good stuff here. All right. So why would you want to use damaged ties? Because they are good at showing that something has happened. It's one of those communication things that I've talked about in the past. How are we doing? Oh man, it's been 46 minutes already. Wow, that is a lot of time today. And rotate them around a little different ways so that you don't get repeated textures. Unless you're trying to go for sort of a video game feel, in which case just keep using the texture selections that you otherwise would, or sorry, not use the textures you would, but repeat a pattern. I'm trying to avoid. Where'd that go? That was weird. I'm trying to avoid a repeated pattern. But in some instances, that will have value for what you're trying to achieve or communicate with your map. There we go. It's too bad there weren't more broken options for these. It'd be nice to have some broken ties on a corner, but this railroad ties in here. Got an obvious break in the line there. Let's grab. Bring that up a layer so it's over top of that. Bring that up a layer. There we go. All right. So how are we doing? So now we have our entrance here. We have our tracks going into gallery areas, sort of ignoring a few places. So these are just going to be like little spin-off areas. So these are good places to have your monsters being generated from or coming from. I put stops out. For carts, we have what looks like, could say maybe there's something here in the past. Unfortunately, this one doesn't really work well. Like, I can fit it in, but by the time I finish putting all the other pieces in, I don't think it would look too good. So I'm not going to do that. Alright, so let's start having fun with walls. Let's see, taverns, temples, terrain, walls and stairs. Here we go. Natural walls. Let's see what else we have before I start plunking all that stuff. So wizard, water, walls and stairs, terrain, temple, tavern, gothic, dungeon. This is more for like literal dungeon. Glowing shrines, that's always good. Some of this is confusing though, because you have like an obvious top-down orientation for so much of it, but then you run into stuff like this where it's it looks like it should be ensconced into a wall. I just don't like how that looks. I love blue crystals. They're like my favorite crystals for magic stuff, but because I have been heavily indoctrinated by things. But let's see a comment. Yeah, there's a few stamps that have some light shadow to them, so it feels a bit like they're floating. Yeah, it really does. Like this, at least this one looks like it's something in the ground, and same with this. But this one, it feels like it has vertical orientation to me versus these ones which have more of that top-down. So I'll throw one of those there. There we go. Some crystals for mining. I'm gonna save this red one for a different dungeon, different crystal, different effect. Okay, so we've got those in. Torches, mice, pickaxe, no. These carts just aren't doing it for me. I don't have anything that requires a bridge. So ladders. I do like having these gritty crates. I'm just going to drop a few there, and I'll orient them afterwards. Throw a couple of them in here. All right. Some crates there. Yeah. Yeah, it would be nice to if you do a bit of color adjustment on these things. That would be nice. Actually, that one's good. I like that. That's fine. There we go. Whoa, 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 whoa. There are multiple gritty desks? There we go. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I don't like how that looks. So you already know that it's a mine, so I don't think that scattering pickaxes around is going to look particularly great. Got broken chairs. Do regular chairs? No, we have a variety of gritty barrels, though. Just a little bit of rotating. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, that one's feels working out really nicely up there. So we've got some gritty barrels out. If we need any urns. Definitely not going to have any campfires down there. Broken stone tables, broken stone shelves. is that? Oh, did not realize it selected everything. Actually, that's something that's I'm going to do right now, very quickly here, and that is lock down all of the railways. So yeah, when you're dealing with, pardon me, no, lock selection. There we go. When you've laid out something like the a railway like this, one of the most frustrating things you can have happen is to accidentally select something and then not notice it, and then bump a bunch of stuff out of the way and suddenly find that you have to come back and redo a bunch of things. So if I just come in and lock all these selections, so I can't even select it. It just makes this map safer for me to work on. All right, I'm really enjoying how this is developing. Now, I believe there's some weird wizard circles going on. That would be very appropriate for that room. Stone summoning circles. Oh, how big is the platform? That is huge. Okay, yeah, not going to not going to use that. Rotate that a little bit. There we go. So yeah, I went with that to keep it low key, because putting a bullseye in the middle of the map will tend to draw, like this is already drawing enough attention because it's a different color. But if I had used a glowing thing there, I would draw too much attention. It'd be like a bullseye, and you'd be more likely to have your characters racing to see if they can get over to that, as opposed to trying to explore anything else. Alright, now, okay, that's done. Let's go back into stamps. The candles, weird alchemy stuff, wizard. Don't see how that's a wizard table. Well, I like those. I'm like a few monster eggs. Change things up a little bit. There we go. I've got a few skulls I can throw down too. Yeah, sure. Big skulls. I'll just throw a few regular skulls down. Yeah, those aren't big enough to show value. Okay. Tempting, but no. Okay, walls and stairs. Natural walls, natural stairs. Okay, so before I embark on what's probably going to drive me insane, and as I try to throw some walls up along this, what we have right now, I'll hit the save button. And this is a perfectly functional, there we go. This is a perfectly functional map. Okay, you could take this to the table or a VTT and it will work just fine. There's no issues with it. It will do the business. But I would like to make it prettier. So like this is something like I've made in about an hour, about an hour's worth of work. And we've got some monster eggs down here. We've got some weird glowing crystals. We've got some options for where we can put stuff. That's good. But I would like to make it pretty. And so to do that, I'm going to come in and I'm going to attempt to place these natural walls, which are, of course, all in short lengths. Because why would they be longer? And I think I'm going to bump them up. $85. So you can come along, and I don't know if I'm really digging how that's looking. I'm not. That doesn't look great. But it's good that we tried. Let's see what other options we have here. So that was the natural walls and natural stairs and primitive stairs. Door simple. So we do have some modular stained stone railings. That's super fancy. Heavy stone door. Hard walls, composite walls. That's cool. I like that I can build a quick dungeon or build something quick like that. There must be something. Broken shells. Wait, how are natural walls long? That actually looks a little better. And for like for a natural cave, I'm definitely going to come back and use the natural walls along. That actually looks good, but it's not matching up what I need here. Cliffs, maybe? Yeah, cliffs. That's going to do, yep, that's the feel. That looks more right. punch these out. So what I can do is I can build these walls up, and then I can come back with the add tool, and I can add terrain, and then toss another foreground color over it. And now this is creating now it looks, at least to me, a little bit more like something where people it looks more cave-ish, if that makes sense. Cave-like. So I'm gonna make sure to get all the little pebbles on the right sides of stuff. This is a great example of one of those things where you're using a feature made for one thing for something completely unrelated, but it works and it looks good. So that's all you need. Plus, this will give me a place to put like torches and stuff like that. Like it's an actual, looks like a more solid mounting point for things. Keep the scale. There we go. So definitely coming back to this on Thursday for like final tidy up and all that sort of good stuff. Let's find this medium piece here. Not sure we're going to use that piece yet. More of that piece. You need a short. Is there a short? Let's look up cliff. See if there's a short cliff piece. Green cliffs. No. That's entirely the wrong vibe. There we go. So, yeah, just come down a little bit, and that works out well for that. I can bring this piece over here, drop it in here. Yeah. So I'm pretty excited right now. Last week I took advantage of that bundle of holding thing for the Hero System 6th edition. And I was flicking through some of the stuff on my pad the other day, and yeah, it's looking pretty good. I've forgotten how much I enjoyed superhero games until I started reading through it. I was like, oh yeah, I remember doing stuff like this. This is awesome. Alright, get this going on here. Yeah, they've still got a whole bunch of stuff on their bundles of holding right now. Fantasy games, superheroes. Like they've got the Champions game, the new edition of it, which I'm a little curious about, but my budget isn't where it's at, or isn't where it needs to be at for me to do that. So there's also a handful of Kickstarters I'm looking at that have some interesting looking content. And of course, I still need part way through reading the Genesis book, which always sort of drives home to me the difference between, because what I'd done previously is my friends and I, we'd seen some actual play of it and a handful of videos about the mechanics, and that's sort of how we jumped off into doing stuff with it. And the process worked, but it's so different to have the book and actually read it and get that more, pardon me, in-depth understanding. And I'm really curious right now as to how there's someone did an informal like TikTok poll a while back where they were looking at what were they were asking for people's ages and how they learned tabletop role playing games, and it was really fascinating. Like obviously there's some generational divide between populations that grew up primarily relying on having access to the books and stuff like that in order to learn them, um, versus people, younger populations, where they had access to more online resources and more things like more actual plays and stuff like that, so you could do the whole like visual learning aspect of it. What was it? What's it? Explain, demonstrate, imitate. So there's probably another step in there. There's an extra explain, but yeah, really fascinating. I'm curious to see if they actually followed up with anything more on that, or if they were happy with those initial results that they had. It's like personally, I find it endlessly fascinating how different groups learn things within the hobby, and how they can often be complementary as opposed to um, being combative against each other. Because it's a lot of people sort of play off the whole like, oh, the old people, like me, I guess. God, I'm old. Anyways, enough of the existential crisis. There's some people who will be like, oh, if you're, the young people only learn to do this, they don't actually read the books. So, like, no, I'm pretty sure kids and younger people read the books. And then there's people like, they need to read a book to learn all this stuff, and I like seeing how all the different groups do this, and then like figuring out the best ways to sort of synthesize learning techniques. Because I think there's definitely, at least in my age cohort, um, I better should hit that save button. Um, there's sometimes an overemphasis on reading all the material. Like I think that it's important, but I don't think it's important to have full mastery of stuff in order to play a game. Versus um, my opinion on it is that you need to know enough about the game to run it. You don't need to know the whole thing. Like you don't need to know all the nuts and bolts, but you need to know enough to run it, and then just know where to look things up. But yeah, I don't know. There's a whole thing about that gets into like pedagogy and um, like teaching methods and information retention styles and all sorts of stuff like that. And I hope that more study gets done on it, because not only is it fascinating, but it really helps as a designer to bridge gaps um, in how you're presenting information to potential new players so they can get the information they need without having to wade through a lot of nonsense. That was one of the things that surprised me a bit. Where is it? Can I reach it? Is it safe to reach? Oh, yeah, more or less. Shouldn't hit myself too badly on the head with these if they fall. Okay, good. Stayed up. So, like, for example, this book here, I got, there we are, the SCP role-playing game. And this is a fantastic game. Really cool. It's got some cards to go with it. It's the first time I've ever seen a color-coded character creation guide, which I think is fantastic, because you can go, okay, like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and all that sort of good stuff. But it's also, I guess this is it's a chunky operation. Like this book to me, it's like this is a flashback to the 90s in terms of design. Like it's information dense, crunchy, and has a lot of moving components. And it works. Like it absolutely, like it plays. But at the same time, yeah, I know, color coded guide for character creation. I love it. But it's just chunky, like and crunchy, and it's so much information that it could be overwhelming. And so yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, like how do you communicate this information better? It's like, yeah, I find it quick overview, an easy way to get players going, and then yeah, I'm very much in a very similar boat. Yeah, Starforged. I've got Starforged around here somewhere. It arrived the other weekend. It is gloriously put together. I also like that it has a reference manual that came with it. That was really fun. So you have like the core book where to do all the gaming, then there's a quick reference manual to just go through to find everything else. I don't know that I would call it decent shipping. It was okay shipping. Um, that's something that I really have to watch out for now. Whenever I do any sort of Kickstarter stuff, and it's actually, unfortunately, I love having physical copies of stuff, but it's pushing me more towards PDF copies just because, yeah, the shipping up here is killer. Um, Not always, but often enough to really do a number on you. All right, so we got 5 minutes left, so let's hit that save button one more time, and then look at what happened, and figure out what's going to happen on Thursday. So let's see here. Oh, fit the screen. There we are. All right, so last couple of weeks we covered off. We built this area up here, East Ruins, top of the hill, um, Bone Trail, Bones in the Woods. We made the mine entrance, and now we're actually designing a little dungeon map. And this is a simple dungeon map built for ease of play. Okay, it's not supposed to be giant, although it could lead to something bigger, which is why I've got this in the middle, and I'll be figuring out how to make a secret wall sort of vibe there on Thursday. Straightforward, we've got our rail network coming in. Gives it that nice mine feel. We've got the crystals that they're mining. We've got some little sort of like workstation areas set up, and right now I'm using cliffs to make the walls pretty, basically, because I wanted the walls to look a little bit more natural, um, and not just be like floating in space. Although that's perfectly acceptable if that's the route that you want to go for. Um, Things that I want to do on this map for Thursday, aside from figure that out and finish up the walls, are I want to maybe scatter a few more clutches of monster eggs around, because who doesn't want more monster eggs in their dungeon or mine? And I'm considering putting some sort of maybe adding an area here. There's a lot of blank space on this map, and I know that you don't have to fill blank space, but it bothers me a little bit, so I'm considering putting a little water hazard um, there, or maybe saving that for a deeper level if we decide to like revisit wherever this summoning circle magical doodad in the middle here leads to. So yeah, I'm going to throw up the rest of the natural walls. Um, Maybe throw out some more debris. There's a lot of stamps to work with. Just close that off. Like Watercolor Battle Maps has a lot of stuff happening. There's torches we can lay out, and I believe there's creepy glowing shrines. Not going to use that. Um, yeah, there's some broken stone stuff. Maybe scatter a few mushrooms through there. Maybe a cobweb or two. Yeah, it's populating the dungeon in terms of terrain right now. And we've got some nice stuff to work with down here um, in terms of some more wall options that I might make use of. We'll see on that. And then, of course, we can always come up to the fantasy battle maps to raid for stuff as well, because like it looks good, and some of the art is close enough that you can work with it. You've got things like fire, spells, lightning. I'm not going to put lightning in, obviously, or snow. But yeah, come back and visit these and figure out how to finish it up, and then how to make it look nice enough that it's good to go for the table, but also something that I'll be like, yeah, this looks good. Let's see here. I got comments here. No, this won't have it until April. Or oh yeah, that's brutal. $50 in shipping. Yeah, I think my shipping was like 25 bucks or 30 bucks or something like that because it was coming up from a place I think it has a shipping deal or something like that. Let's see here. For underground maps, I always tempted to do that thing with cartoons where you see the cutaways. Oh yeah, Dinosaur Skull says you absolutely. Like I love that too. I don't think they have. There's not much in the way of bones. And they got a couple. So like yeah, I'm 100%. I love doing little stuff like that as well. Um, have skeleton. Oh, there's 6 skeletons. Those are some weird skeletons. What's that one doing? Oof. Yeah, I love doing stuff like that. It's like toss out things randomly, and yeah, it's just good, good fun. And also, you can play off that later on and have it actually be real, which is also an option. So the players look at it like, oh, haha, it's that thing like cartoons. You've got a skeleton there, and then down the road, you're like, oh, by the way, that skeleton was real. You should probably get back and deal with that. But thank you, everybody. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching today and joining me for making this map. It has been a lot of fun. We'll be back on Thursday, hopefully on time, because my computer's all updated now and good to go. Hope you all have a great day. Once again, a shout out to my supporters on Ko-fi and Patreon for helping make all of this possible. And if you're not supporting me there yet, please consider it. You can find me on social media as POC Gamer and or Panzerlion. And have a great day.